Part 11. Disclaimer: this lesson is for educational purposes only. It is not financial, legal, career, tax, medical, or mental health advice. The goal is to help people recognize common financial myths, outside influences, fear based thinking, and practical steps that can support better money decisions. If you need emotional or mental support, consider speaking with a licensed therapist or qualified professional. In the financial literacy playlist, we have talked about awareness, budgeting, money leaks, emergency funds, debt, credit, interest, discipline, income pressure, and hope. Now, in part 11, we're going to talk about myths because sometimes people are not just fighting bills, they're fighting bad information, fear, shame, things they heard growing up, social media, outside pressure, survival thinking. They're fighting the belief that change is not possible for people like them. The lesson is about exposing financial myths that keep people stuck. Because if a person believes the wrong thing long enough, that belief can become a financial prison. But once the myth is exposed, the mind has room to choose something different. Chapter 1. Welcome back to part 11. Today we are talking about financial myths. A myth is something people repeat so much that it starts to feel true, even when it is hurting them. Money myths can come from family, friends, social media, culture, survival, fear, or they can come from people who never had the tools themselves. And that is important to understand. Some people did not teach you wrong because they wanted to hurt you. Some people taught you what they knew or what they thought they knew or what they did or the lack of. But what if what they knew was survival, fear, debt avoidance, shame, or confusion? Then at some point you have to decide, do I keep repeating what I inherited or do I learn something different? Chapter 2, the first myth: I'm just bad with money. One of the most damaging myths is I'm just bad with money. That sounds simple, but it is powerful because when someone says I am bad with money, they are not just describing behavior. They're turning a skill gap into an identity. They're saying this is who I am. But financial literacy is not a personality trait. It is a skill. Budgeting is a skill. Saving, reading a credit report, understanding interest, saying no to pressure, planning income, all are skills and skills can be learned. So instead of saying I am bad with money, say I am learning money. That one shift matters because shame makes people hide, but learning gives people a path. Real life example: a person may avoid checking their bank account because they're scared of what they will see. They call themselves irresponsible, but once they start tracking spending, they realize they were spending almost $200 a month on small convenience purchases. That is not identity, that is information. Information can be used. Myth 2: budgeting means I cannot enjoy my life. Another common myth is if I budget, I cannot enjoy my life. A lot of people think a budget means restriction, no fun, eating out, shopping, hobbies, freedom. But a real budget is not a jail cell. A budget is a plan. It helps you enjoy life without destroying your stability. The goal is not to remove all joy. The goal is to stop random spending from stealing from the things that matter. Not to mention, finding joy in external things is always short lived. So you're always going to keep paying the fee to have joy if that's what you find joy in. There's things that are free that you can find joy in, joy within your personal life, rebuilding yourself, strengthening the bonds that you want to keep, severing the bonds that bring you down. Like that's what joy is. Once you realize, like, a lot of the things you're chasing outside are because you're neglecting them on the inside, you will look at joy differently. All of the things that you do just to keep up with people, just to be seen by people, eventually those things will become old because you will realize all of those people in those spaces were just as unaware, sometimes more, than you currently are or than you currently were. So it's really just the blind leading the blind impressing the blind, the broke competing with the broke, loving the broke, outdoing the broke. A budget can include fun, it can include entertainment, eating out, clothes, hobbies, but the difference is those things are planned. Freedom is not doing whatever you want in the moment. Sometimes freedom is having enough control today that tomorrow does not punish you. A budget does not take your life away, it gives your life direction. It takes your current life of dysfunction away. So, yes, when people say it's ruining your life, it is. It's ruining your dysfunctional life and it's giving you a different one. It's giving you stability, it's giving you maturity, is giving you direction. When you live based off of joy, there is no limit to how much you will spend. Because if people are able to present something as as a thing to help your life, like products, services, body procedures, experiences, people will go into debt just to experience that. How many people out there have vehicles that they're gonna end up paying over hundreds of thousands of dollars for? And it started from a decision of them not liking their current vehicle that still work and that they deserve it. When in reality, you look around, it's really outside influences. If we were influenced to all of a sudden start buying old vehicles, you would see that everyone would quickly stop buying new vehicles because the trend is to buy an old vehicle. It's really trying to fit in with a society that is confused. When when you look at society itself, like no groups selected, no ideas selected, no income selected, people really are just doing what they were told, what the people around them do that'll make them fit in with them. They don't have a real direction. And when you get to a point where you start wanting to have more say so in your the creative control of your life, you will start to notice that people are very fickle in a general sense. Like, not everyone is fickle, of course, because I don't do monolithic thinking or speaking. But in a if you zoom out of society or where you at, you see it's a lot of influence. And it's not even to help each other. Like, people will use their energy just to stay in groups with people or just to stay in conversations online. Meanwhile, the drainage system in a city is 100 years old and no one has upgraded it. Or the electrical grid is outdated and the city is constantly having millions of people move in. But people are not paying attention to those things because they're too busy focused on other stuff, whatever the trending thing is to focus on. Because if people were really about self-preservation, community preservation, being true to politics for the political head people, they would be aware of those things. They would be looking at, okay, we all pay taxes, and why is this street always so bad? Where is the money going? Like, people don't pay attention to those things because it's so many moving parts. It's not like it's this one person that's above everyone with puppet strings and red eyes making everything happen. But when you have a bunch of people who are unconscious, it's so easy to just get what you want from them and not care about what they need. And I'll stop there because I don't want to get lost in my thoughts. Myth three: I don't make enough money to save. This myth is tricky because for many people, money is really tight. So we have to be honest. Some people truly do not have enough income for their basic needs. Some people are dealing with rent, food, transportation, childcare, medical costs, debt, and rising prices. So if money is tight, this is not about shaming you, but here is the correction. Savings does not always start with the big amount. Saving starts with a pattern. $5, $1, $10, all those amounts matter. Not because that small amount solves everything, but because it teaches your brain, I can keep something, protect something, build something. Many adults would struggle if a small emergency came up. That means emergency savings is not just a nice idea, it is a real life protection tool. A real life example: if a person saves $10 a week, that is $520 in a year. That may not make them wealthy, but it could cover a tire, copay, groceries, medication, a bill, or help avoid borrowing. A small cushion can prevent a bigger crisis. Not to mention, people always want to make the goal to be wealthy. For what? What are you doing with money now? How do you handle money now? You want to be wealthy so you can buy more things that you don't need, so you can continue to chase after people that don't want anything to do with you outside of your benefits. Like, anyone would appreciate money, me included, but I'm not going to build my life based off of that. And too many people, life is based off of being luxury centered. Everything has to be luxurious, everything has to be nice, and they have all of these excuses. Most people don't even have the patience to be able to sit through something that they could learn from, but they have the skills to make excuses for every toxic trait that they have in their life. And when you have an environment of people who share those same traits, it's less likely that you're going to see a reason to grow from it, because you're still fitting in with people. And the fitting in thing is so sneaky, because many people think it's just if you do things in the manner of a high school person, if the friend skips school, the other friend skips school type stuff. Adults do it because a lot of people are living unconscious and they do not realize socializing is a game itself. So yes, it is fine to socialize. You can be in a social group, you can have friend groups, you can have work groups, you can have work group chats, but you need to be intentional when you're doing it. You need to know the consequences of when you're doing it. You need to know not to be oversharing things that are vulnerable, even if the person shares something vulnerable with you first, because that's the trick that people do. People will give you false vulnerability so that you think, oh, this is a safe place. They just told me this. That's embarrassing. Let me tell them this, this, and this. No, baby, that's manipulation. That's manipulation. If you're not building a genuine relationship and y'all build up to that point, it is a person rushing to know things about you is manipulation. It's a lot of manipulation in communication between humans. And the thing about it is, manipulation is not a good or a bad thing. It's a tool, just like money is a tool, just like sleep is a tool, a bed is a tool. These things, when not used, they just exist. But when a person yields them, like with a bed, you can use a bed to sleep. You could use a bed to do all kinds of things, good and bad things. Does that make the bed good or bad? No. Now, if the bed is weak, that means it's a weak bed. But you know, and with vehicles are tools. A vehicle can get you somewhere. A vehicle could get you away from somewhere. It can get you into somewhere. People use it, and don't be looking and running over people. So when it comes to all of these different myths and people being uncertain about themselves when they want to grow from it, it's easier to just continue what you knew or to fall back and just give up, because that's what the people around you have done. You may not have witnessed the people around you fail, but that frequency, that energy, that mindset of failure is there. And it's so powerful that even if you wasn't there for their failures, you are receiving the residual energy of their failure, because now their mindset is rubbing off on you. That is why people tell you to be careful who you're around. I know for real life example, when people will hang around me for too long, they will pick up all of my lingo, which I have a lot of lingo. I could literally have an encyclopedia of my own lingo that has specific meaning, consistent meaning. And a lot of people don't even realize when I'm using it, because I use it in regular conversations, not for them, but for me to remember stuff like it. But that's a whole different thing. Chapter 5, I think. Yeah. Credit cards are free money. Oh Lord, I used to hear that as a kid. I remember when this dude who was getting what they call the crazy check, and those was their words, not mine. So sue them. Some of them dead though. And his card was approved for $1,000, and he went around the neighborhood as if he had won $1,000, but you have to pay that back. Another dangerous myth: credit cards are free money. Credit cards can be useful tools. They can help build credit. They can help build security. They can offer convenience. But credit cards are not extra income. When you swipe a card, swipe or no swiping, you are borrowing from your future. If you pay the balance in full and on time, you may avoid interest on purchases depending on the terms, which means if you bought something within a month before your statement date, and you paid that money back, it will literally be 0% because you didn't let it hit the statement, is what they're saying. But yeah, but if you carry a balance, the purchase can become more expensive. This is where people get trapped, because it is a trap. You like when it comes to things that we get trapped in, it's not like the person wanted you to get trapped, but the person knows human nature. All of these companies, like if you want to, you can't be $1 billion companies if you don't know human nature. That is why this channel is dedicated for you to see your own nature, me to describe scenarios and give different gems from philosophy, psychology, financial, but also for you to reflect on yourself and see where, what do you see about yourself in these things. It's not for you to become like the script and match every script I have, or even above all, ever try to want to achieve whatever I know, because you don't want to go down the path I had to go to get here. So it's basically traps. They already know. Like maybe I might make a video of all of the common traps and how psychologically it's almost hard for people to not fall into it once they get into that environment. They buy something for $50. They do not pay it off. Interest gets added. Then they keep using the card. Now the card is not helping them. It is pulling money from future paychecks. Philosophy moment. Debt lets you bring the future into the present. But if you do that too often, the future shows up empty handed. Use credit with purpose, not pressure, boredom, insecurity, comparison, purpose. Minimum payments mean I'm fine. Whew. I mean, as long as I make the minimum payment, I am good. Minimum payments can help you avoid late fees. They can help keep the account current, but minimum payments may not get you out of debt quickly, especially with high interest debt. Baby, don't rush. If you got in debt over years, you may take you years to get out of it. Wanting to rush is the reason why people quit, because the results don't come in fast enough. A person working out for too long and they stop losing weight, they don't realize that they probably in body composition mode. So yes, they are losing fat, but they're also gaining muscle. So the scale doesn't change, but they notice their waist size changes. But then they're so hyper focused on a goal weight amount, which is so funny that that is even a thing. And they end up giving up because they don't feel like they're getting a reward from it, even though if you're physically active, no matter where you do it at, the reward is that you add years to your life. I mean, unless a distracted driver runs over you, but if you don't get ran over by a distracted driver, the more healthy things you do for yourself, it offsets the things that you do that's unhealthy. You don't have to be purified and not eating sugar or not drinking sweet drinks immediately, but you definitely can also add more fiber, add more vitamins, add more natural things that your body can have, so you can have a fighting chance in the event when you sick or if you stress, because when you stress it weakens your immune system. But if you already not having any nutrients in addition to the things you eat, then you get sick easier, you get headaches easier, because you have so much sodium and sugar that your body is just like cursing you out. Every pain from the inside is your body cursing you out, unfortunately, for different reasons. Some of it may be inherited. It's not your fault, which is always a fault thing. Like, gosh darn it, could we just leave the fault alone? Leave that to the earthquakes and the San Andreas fault line. Like, everything does not have to be fault. And even if it is fault, so what? Y'all got to stand on business. For me, that's one thing I liked when I was flawed. When it came to other people, I always stood on it, not aggressively towards them, but I was never ashamed of the fact that I made a mistake, because that was an opportunity for me to learn. Because for a large part of my life, I was so beneficial to people that I was not getting commentary. I was not getting constructive criticism. It would only be mad day attacks when the benefit stopped. But it wasn't people helping me develop myself, and it wasn't their job to do it. But had people been more critical of me, I probably would have developed sooner. But also, had I known that personal development is my responsibility above all, then we could have just took the middleman out in the first place. But it also would have been beneficial to help, because for me, I've always grew people that was around me. There's no one that have been around me in a close proximity that has not grown, because I make sure that happens. And a lot of the times they didn't even realize that I was doing it, because that was positive manipulation I was doing. I was manipulating people to be better so that they didn't have to feel like they were stuck in life. And they didn't even realize some of the things I was doing that made them notice their self, that made them notice their power. Because no matter how weak we are, what we feel about ourselves, if we disabled, if people have low self-esteem to themselves, you still have power. We all have some form of power. It's just people don't use it, or they don't get a chance to use it. Some people in different parts of the world, are trapped so they can't use their power, but they still have power of something. They just don't realize it. That's why when people are trapped, always a lot of distractions within the trap that make you not even think about the options to get out of the trap. So what a person does is become accustomed. They put wall art, they get an area rug, they get a flat screen for the trap, and they just think that that's life. And then sometimes some traps are so deeply rooted in people's brain and thought patterns that a person may even become defensive of the trap because they don't want to go into the unknown because the trap is known. The minimum payment can make the debt feel manageable while interest keeps working quietly in the background. That is why financial literacy teaches you to ask, how much do I owe? What is the interest rate? How long will this take if I only pay the minimum? What is the total cost? Can I even add an extra small payment? Real life examples. Someone may think a $35 minimum payment is harmless, but if the balance is large and the interest rate is high, they may spend years paying for purchases they barely remember. I can't even tell you what well, I'm lying. I have an elephant memory. My first credit card, I maxed it out at Abercrombie and Fitch. Yeah. Skinny legend days. Chapter 7, making more money will fix everything. A lot of people think if I just made more money, everything would be fixed. Sometimes more income is absolutely needed. If your income is too low for your cost of living, earning more can create breathing room. But more income by itself does not automatically create stability, because if habits do not change, spending can grow with income. That is called lifestyle creep. You get a raise, then the car gets more expensive, apartments get more expensive. And see, the downside with the apartment thing is sometimes it's not even that you're trying to be luxurious. Some people really just want better neighborhoods, unfortunately. And then you run into the risk of these botched built places to where it's like, yeah, the rent is more and it looks nice on the outside because they make sure to paint every few months. But on the inside, it's just full of lust and ready to bust. Floors crumbling, neighbors mumbling, old people stumbling down the stairs because the elevator always broke. Like, it's just a hot mess. Not to mention, all too often, I see that when people frame these types of conversations, it's almost like they chastising people. But if no one around me flies, flies, like if humans could fly, how would I suddenly just get up one day and fly? So when it comes to people, with the whole finance thing, if your whole environment was curated for materialism, it's not necessarily your fault. I think for me, only time I will make people feel bad or shame people or attack people are for the people who attack other people. I want you to feel shame so you can stop attacking people and start focusing on your life. I want you to feel shame so you can stop gossiping and using all of your life energy discussing people as if they the main character. Like, I don't care how it come off, but for me, I have never sat and wanted to talk about someone else with someone else. No, not when I'm in the room. That's like the sun sitting up here discussing asteroids. You think the sun care about asteroids? No. The sun is counting down its time until it become a superdwarf and then explode, like, which is millions of years from now. But so that's the kind of people I shame. But for people who don't know, that's really the thing that make people stop, give up. Because when you going down the path of learning, it's kind of like starting elementary or high school again. If you walking down the hallway to class to learn and everyone's teasing you, everyone's telling you, oh, you stupid, or look at your shoes, and blaming stuff on you that you don't have any control over because your parents dressed you. Your parents may be poor, your house may have burned down, so many different things. So for me, it's not really a thing to feel shame of, but I also don't want you to get in the habit of, because something is not your fault or your cause, that you just don't work on it. You should want to work on it. You don't have to be perfect because no one is perfect. I'm far from perfect. If perfect was next door, I'm 3 miles away. So when it comes to building yourself, you're gonna still have flaws. That's what make you who you are. Like, it's almost impossible to not have flaws unless you just a super performer and you performing all of the time, and then you're gonna be drained and probably fall into addiction because all of that mental energy ends up leading to depression, or you may already have a predisposition to depression due to upbringings, unhealed trauma, all of that other stuff. So this is not something to feel bad about. It should be excited. When you learning new things, find excitement in it, because that's exactly the excitement you have for all of the negative stuff. I don't know anyone who cry when they go to the dealership to buy a car and they had the luxury car. I don't know people who cry, like they might cry tears of joy, but they don't be upset or, oh, I gotta go get a car note today. No, they be happy. Oh, I'm about to get a new car and they got the thing I want and they got the sunroof and the hoes ain't gonna be able to take me and all of this other stuff. Have that energy for the things that build you up too. But don't do it the same way though, because I know like with good things, people always think about how it looks to others. Yeah, that's a natural human thing to do, but don't let that lead your life. Actually, when you stop caring what other people think, that's when other people appreciate you more. It was not until I started wearing Phallus Paralis, Ross, all of these different cheap stuff that people would notice the clothes I had on. It wasn't until I was wearing Rue 21 $10 cologne that people was like, oh, you smell good. What's that? But before that, when I would get cologne and spray it, and even though I do love Versace Eros, but I would never buy it. A booster's always got it for me. I never told them to boost. Hey, I didn't make the product. I didn't make the thief. I just, support support small businesses. Because I mean, even though it don't have a business license, essentially, criminals are business too. But I don't support criminals. No, that was a bad word because it's too many types of crimes people commit. I'm talking about boosting. Y'all already have a song going platinum about it. So hey, while we here, give me that cologne for $40. But anyways, when like none of that stuff mattered. And honestly, that's another reason why people always feel like life is on a never-ending treadmill at the highest speed, because when you have other people involved, things are always going to change. You have people who don't even know what's going on half the time. If people had thought bubbles, a lot of people thought bubbles would be empty. And these are the people you're trying to impress. Y'all trying to impress people who go home and pull at their body fat in the mirror. Y'all trying to impress people who doing all types of things to hide their flaws. Like they just as flawed as you. So, I mean, once you see a lot of society, especially based off of the literacy rates, a lot of people are insecure 12-year-olds in an adult body. That is why when people be throwing y'all out there telling y'all just to go make friends anywhere or date anywhere, no, baby. Unless you a child predator, who wants to date an adult with a 12-year-old mind? Especially for people who date men. Like if the man's supposed to be the leader, you're gonna have an emotionally outrageous person as your leader. He get temper tantrums at work and take extended lunch breaks, and now y'all rent can't be paid. Or for friends, you want people to be emotional and immature as friends because you're not really vetting people and growing yourself. And then when you putting them down as emergency contacts, they not answering because they was too busy being boy or girl crazy, or they were going through one of their moods where they ignore everyone. And then when they get out of their mood, they blowing everyone's phone up. Like, no. Okay. The trip gets more expensive. The pressure gets louder. And somehow, even with more money, you still feel broke. This is why extra income needs a plan before it arrives. When income grows, decide where the income goes. Emergency fund, debt payoff, bills, training, savings, transportation, housing stability, future goals. Do not let a better paycheck become a bigger leak. Myth 7, investing is only for rich people. Investing is only for rich people. Here is the balanced truth. Not everyone is ready to invest today. Baby, if you are behind on bills, dealing with high interest debt, or have no emergency fund, investing may not be the first move, but learning investing can start now. You don't have to be rich to learn what stocks are, to learn what retirement accounts are, to learn what compound growth means. You don't have to be rich to learn the difference between investing and gambling. Learning early prepares you for the moment when you're ready. The myth says this is not for people like me. Financial literacy says I may not be ready yet, but I can learn the language. That matters because sometimes the first investment is not money. Sometimes the first investment is what it said. Let's scroll too fast. Attention. And it's the irony of that is that you don't invest directly through stocks, which this is no pressure because if this is a financial literacy lesson, then I'm supposed to teach you that, which I will. And you still invest in those businesses, like all of those businesses. You're investing in them, but you just getting products. You're not on the other side of it. You're on the side that is the side, word to Latin. What is inflation? Now let's introduce another important financial concept, inflation. We're going to start very simple. Imagine a 5-year-old has $1. Today, that $1 can buy one small bag of chips, but later the store changes the price. Now the same bag of chips costs $1.25. The child still has $1, but now that $1 cannot buy the same thing anymore. That is the basic idea of inflation. Inflation means prices go up over time and the same amount of money buys less than it used to. The money did not disappear, but its buying power got weak. That is why people say things like groceries cost more now, rent is higher, gas used to be cheaper, my paycheck does not stretch like it used to. That feeling is connected to inflation. I'm gonna shoot in the dark with this example, but it may land, it may go overboard, man overboard, word to offshore. But it's like, okay, if 100% of your battery on your phone is able to work for 24 hours, but then over time you start to notice that that same 100% is now lasting 12 hours, but it's still 100%. It's no charging issues, no anything. That is a way to think of inflation. Like if your $20 buy you 5 pounds of crawfish now, but then over time, $20 only could get you 1 pound of crawfish. That's what inflation is. Slide 10 of inflation in adult life. Now let's use an adult example. Imagine your monthly income is 2,500. Your rent, groceries, gas, insurance, phone bill, and basic needs cost 2,200. That leaves $300 of breathing room. But over time, prices rise. Rent goes up, groceries go up, insurance goes up, gas goes up, utilities. Now your same lifestyle costs $2,450. Your income is still $2,500, but your breathing room has dropped from 300 to 50. You did not necessarily become worse with money. The cost of life increased. This is why inflation matters. If your income stays the same while prices rise, you can feel like you're working hard but falling behind. This is one of the reasons financial literacy is not only about cutting back, it is about increasing income, building skills, savings, reducing high interest debt, and eventually learning how assets work. And also valuing yourself as a human who is receiving this funding. You are working using your life essence and time for however much time it takes for you to achieve or receive your money to give it away for what? Like for things that don't add to you, it doesn't protect you more for a lot of the stuff in some situations, because this is not just, assuming or things like that. Like you have to value yourself more and also be willing to make changes. Don't be those people who keep living in these apartment complexes for decades, going through all kind of tenants' rights violations, and still giving these people money, keeping their lights on, and that's why they don't really care because people don't know until the money's taken away. That's how businesses speak. Businesses speak in loss of money. Some businesses may care about outrage because of reputation and things like that, but a lot of them don't. That's why they continue to do it. And when it comes to you have to be more, you have to be picky with your money. I think, is that a video? Yeah, that's a video, the Be Stingy video. I'm gonna have to release that today. Inflations and assets. Inflations. Now, here is where the conversation gets deeper. Inflation can hurt when all you have is cash and bills, because if prices keep rising and your money is not growing, your buying power can shrink. That's why it's dangerous when people keep large sums of cash in their house for years, because baby, if it was 100,000 and 2,000, it's still 100,000, but you know how that game go. But inflation can sometimes benefit people who own assets. An asset is something that can hold value, grow value, or produce income. Examples may include a home, a business, certain investments, rental property, stocks or retirement account, land, skills that increase earning power. See, skills that increase earning power is an asset. That's something that's inside of you that no one can extract from you. Once you learn it, you have it. Tools or equipment that help you earn income. Now, does this mean every asset always goes up? No. And it does not mean investing is risk-free, but over long periods of time, some assets may rise in value as the cost of living rises. For example, if someone owns a home and home value increases over time, inflation may make that asset worth more. If someone owns a business and prices rise, that business may be able to charge more for its products or services. If someone invests wisely over time, certain investments may grow and help protect against the loss of buying power. So inflation can feel like a weight when you only earn, spend, and survive. But when you begin building assets, learning skills, and growing income, you start moving towards the side of inflation where growth may become possible. Cash, income, and ownership. This is why financial literacy builds in layers. First, you become aware, then you track your money, reduce leaks, build an emergency fund, understand debt, credit, interest. Then you build discipline. Then you work on income. Then you start learning about ownership. That is the journey. At the beginning, cash is protection. You need cash for emergencies, bills, stability. But over time, the goal is not only to hold cash, the goal is to use money wisely so you can build things that can grow. That could mean building skills that help you earn more. That could mean investing later when you're ready, starting a business. That could mean buying tools that help you make money. That could mean retirement savings, ownership. The point is not to rush. The point is to understand the direction. Cash helps you survive. Income helps you breathe. Assets help you build. Look at that building. The foundation to build on. If this sounds new, do not panic. You do not have to master inflation, investing, assets, and ownership in one video. This is an introduction. The goal is to plant the seed. Remember, in the financial literacy playlist, we are building knowledge layer by layer, brick by brick. Today, just understand this. Inflation means prices rise and your money may buy less over time. If your income does not grow, inflation can squeeze you. If your savings do not grow, inflation can weaken your buying power. If you only consume, inflation can feel like pressure. But if you build skills, income, discipline, savings, and eventually assets, you can start moving toward a stronger position. That is why awareness matters, learning matters, building. Also, work on your problem solving skills. That all of the stuff I say to work on, I'm gonna have a video on it sooner. But you always welcome to find resources now before I do. But yes, please work on your problem solving skills. Problem solving skills work in everything, literally everything, like literally. The way you break down the problem and start from the end and then work your way to the beginning, or start from the goal resolution and work your way back to the problem and make them connect each other like the two cell phone lines back in the day when people used to, you know, because the goal is not just to survive today. The goal is to become harder to push backward tomorrow. Inflation teaches us an important lesson. If the world keeps getting more expensive, then our knowledge, income, habits, and ownership have to grow too. You do not have to know everything today, but every lesson you learn gives you more power tomorrow. And also, I don't remember the name of it, but if your child or someone you know is buying that little squishy thing that everyone is paying all kind of crazy money for, maybe don't let them children put that in the microwave, because the children been putting it in the microwave and it's been exploding on their face and giving them burns. I don't know the name of the product though. I think it's Nito. I think that's what it is. Nito. Yeah, possibly. Chapter 14. Talking about money is embarrassing. This is going to be a nuanced one for me, because I'm going to read what I wrote, but I also need to go back over that. Many people grew up hearing do not talk about money, and there can be wisdom in privacy. Everyone does not need access to your business, but silence can keep people uninformed. If no one talks about budgeting, people do not learn. If no one talks about credit, people do not learn. Debt, people suffer alone. Salaries, people may stay underpaid. Scams, people get tricked. If no one talks therapy, then people keep carrying their pain quietly. Healthy money conversation matters, not gossip, bragging, judging. Healthy conversations matter. How do I build credit? Compare jobs, avoid scams, start saving, find training, ask for help. Silence protects shame. Healthy conversations create options, but you can't have those conversations with healthy people, unhealthy people. If it's a person who going to use the fact that you told them you have an emergency savings against you when they borrowing money aggressively and telling you, I know you have it, you told me about the account. That's not the kind of people you want to talk about that with. Mainly your kids or people who you have influence over, maybe people who you are trying to help. If it's older people in your life, those are the people, but don't get into your actual finances. You can talk about the act of doing it. Now, granted, if it's people who financially illiterate, you're gonna be met with all kinds of age-old myths that you're gonna be trying to debunk. And then if you still in a mindset of when people say incorrect things, you want to correct them, then good luck with that interaction. It's going to be very fun. You should record it. Chapter 15, people who struggle are lazy. One of the cruelest myths, people who struggle financially are lazy. That is not only false, it is harmful. Many people who struggle are working. Some work in multiple jobs, caring for children, helping family, dealing with health issues. Some are underpaid. Some are recovering from emergencies. Some are dealing with housing instability. Some were never taught financial skills. Some are dealing with trauma, stress, grief, or depression. Financial problems can come from choices, but they can also come from systems, emergencies, low wages, medical bills, housing costs, lack of access, family pressure, or bad information. Personal responsibility matters, but compassion matters too. The goal is not to shame people into silence. The goal is to give them the tools that help them move. I can understand where that come from. It's not right, but people project. When I see certain content where people are just looking at other people content, the judgments they give is them projecting on someone in their life that fits that exact mold, and it's the words that they want to tell them. How do I know? Because I've done it in a few videos, and I'm not going to do it anymore now, because the fact that people are in vulnerable positions watching this content, I don't want them to get the message mixed up, because I don't view the world that way. In my projections, it was me projecting how I felt about my family members, but I always highlighted that it was my family, but it still can be taken as sounding like the rest of the people who judge people who struggling. And I don't, because you cannot judge a problem and just group everyone's reason and relationship to the problem as the same thing, because it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So yeah, it's I see some people doing it, especially I noticed, like, it was this one channel. At first I thought I liked the channel because he would talk about a lot of stuff that people neglected to raise their children with, or things that people neglect to do in society. But then I noticed he has like this affinity for going at women who have kids, and his story is always the same, as if people relationships and the way they have kids is exactly the same. Like everyone who has children had children the exact same way. Like, no, like, and that's kind of weird, because it supports other people with that ignorant mindset too, and it increases confirmation bias for people to just feel that way. That's why when people use the term community, I laugh, because a community where women get dragged, men be getting dragged, but it'd be funny when they be acting like they cowering in the corner and people attacking them. For men, like, men, baby, this is a patriarchal society. Put your pants on, let your nuts drop. Outside influences that feed money myths. Money myths do not appear out of anywhere. They're fed by outside influences. Social media tells you to look rich. Ads tell you to buy now. Friends may pressure you to spend. Family may normalize survival habits. Culture may make debt look normal. Influencers may sell fake lifestyles. Scammers may sell shortcuts. Fear may tell you not to try. Shame may tell you to hide. Peekaboo. Comparison may tell you that you're behind. That is why awareness is so important. Who benefits if I stay confused? Huh. Who profits if I spend without thinking? Huh huh. Who gains if I compare myself all day? Who wins if I cannot believe? Once you see the influence, you can choose what gets access to your mind. And I got to double back on that one. Who benefits if I stay confused? Who profits if I spend without thinking? Who gains if I compare myself all day? Who wins if I believe I cannot change? Remember, I've mentioned, as if you've seen all my videos, but I mentioned in previous videos, that's always the question you need to ask, especially when it comes to anger as well. When things are upsetting you online and it makes you want to do something, who would benefit from you doing that? First of all, the person who enraged you benefits, because now you're going to keep keeping up with whatever enraged you, because you're going to want to know updates. You become invested in it. That's why they use emotional manipulation to keep you invested with stuff. Either be a nostalgia, anger, fear, paranoia, confirming beliefs that you may believe in. Some channels even make videos about stuff that's false, but the audience is for the people who still believe it's true. So they're basically just wasting these people time. So you always have to question those things. Now, granted, if questions take long for you to answer, develop a way to have a system of remembering these answers, because a lot of the times behaviors don't really change too much between too many groups of people. So once you get the gist of the different kinds of people around you, then the questions will be answered faster and you would have a faster reaction time of not reacting or reacting at your benefit. Chapter 17. What if I start and fail? If first you don't succeed, put yourself up and try again. A lot of people are afraid to start because they are afraid they will fail. They tried before. They made a budget and stopped. They saved money and had to use it. They tried to pay debt and another bill came. They tried to improve credit and got discouraged. They tried to make more income and got rejected. So they think, why even try? But that's actually information, because then you can see what your weak points are, because that's showing the weak spot and you can strengthen that. But listen, failing at a step is not failing at the mission. If you make a budget and mess up, you learn something. If you save money and have to use it, the emergency fund worked. If you pay debt slowly, you're still moving. If you apply and get rejected, you got information. If you fall off, then you can return. The only real failure is refusing to learn from the setback. Not to mention, sometimes it's not failure. Sometimes you just needed a break. Maybe you needed to focus on other things that you have control over. Because if we focusing on one thing and it's whooping our tail, and we have other things in life that we know we can manage, it's natural to just go to the things you can manage, because the human body can only take so much. The human body can only take so much, and y'all be putting it through the ringer. Like, especially because people underestimate the mental and the emotional state of our bodies, and the amount of emotional and mental turmoil that y'all subject yourself to is insane. But you paying for it. You definitely are. You just don't realize it. Slide 18. What if people judge me? Another fear is judgment. People may judge you for changing, judge you for budgeting, judge you for not going out, using resources, going to therapy, asking questions, for starting late. Did you judge them when they bread was stink? Did you judge them when they pronounced the word wrong that people know is not pronounced that way? Did you judge them when they double back to people that they drag for you to? Like, no. So I mean, every finger pointing is 10 pointing back. They may judge you for starting late, but judgment from others is not proof that you're wrong. And not to mention, judgment is not a sentence. A person gonna judge. People gonna do like everything that we afraid people gonna do. They're gonna do that anyway. They're gonna do it anyway. So the sooner that you able to understand and embrace that, baby, you take your power back. Because as long as we still concerned of people, unless it's your safety involved, your lifestyle, your stability involved, if it's just generic thinking or social influence, baby, people lose more teeth than they lose friends. It ain't no big deal. Sometimes the teeth grow back. Sometimes you got blank spaces in your mouth. Some people judge what they do not understand. Some people judge what makes them uncomfortable. Sometimes your growth reminds them of what they're avoiding. You do not have to explain every move, defend every boundary, shrink your growth so people feel comfortable. I'm making sure, because I had an inspector coming, that they're not late. Slide 19. What happens if you stick with the plan? A lot. Now let's take a peek at what can happen if you stick with the plan. Not overnight, magically, but over time. You may start checking your account instead of avoiding it, seeing where your money goes, reduce one money leak, build your first $100 in savings, stop using credit for impulse purchases, understand your credit report, pay a bill on time because you planned ahead, avoid a scam because you recognize pressure, learn a skill instead of doom scrolling, apply for a better job, ask for help without shame, say no without guilt, sleep a little better, feel a little less panic, start believing maybe I can change. And that belief is powerful, because once you become aware, you become harder to manipulate, harder to pressure, harder to shame. You become more intentional. And that is where freedom begins. And like Martin said, let freedom reign. Higher paying entry level paths to research. Let's talk about income paths people can research. Not every higher paying path requires a 4-year degree to start. Some may require training, certification, apprenticeship, licensing, physical ability, background checks, or experience, but many people do not know these options exist. Examples to research include commercial driver training, electrician apprentice, plumbing apprentice, HVAC technician, welding, utility worker, medical assistant, patient care technician, pharmacy technician, dental assistant, sterile processing technician, IT support specialist, cybersecurity support pathways, help desk technician, administrative assistants, insurance claims trainee, sales development, banking associate, 911 dispatcher, correctional office, postal service, warehouse, construction, aircraft maintenance training. The point is not that every path fits everyone. The point is that more options may exist than you were told. Use workforce tools, local training programs, libraries, community colleges, apprenticeships, government funded. Baby, use up the funding, please. Please. Do not only ask what job I can get, ask what skill can I build that changes my options. Resources that can help. You do not have to build alone. You are not alone. For financial education, use trusted sources like mymoney.gov, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and FDIC Money Smart. For career training, use Career One Stop, your local American Job Center, and workforce training programs. For free learning, use your local library, Libby, LinkedIn, if your library provides it. For mental and emotional support, use licensed therapy if needed. If you're in crisis, call or text 988. If you need local help with food, housing, healthcare, or bills, use findhelp.org or 211 if available in your area. There is no shame in using resources. Resources are tools, and tools can help build people. Chapter, I'm out of air. I'm going to save air. Poverty of information is real. Here is the philosophy behind this lesson. A lot of people are not lacking intelligence. They're lacking information. They're lacking exposure. They're lacking examples, safe conversations, access, encouragement. Someone saying this can be learned. You are not stupid. You're not hopeless. You're not too late. You're not stuck forever. Financial literacy is not just about numbers. I don't think people are overall stupid, like as far as just stupid, like it's just their existence. But I think people do stupid things and say stupid things at times. So for me, I don't think you're stupid because confusion is expensive. Shame is expensive. Silence is expensive. Bad advice is expensive. But awareness creates options, and options create movement. This week's action plan. This week's action plan. Write down one money myth you believe. Write down where you learned it, the truth that replaces it. Take one action that proves the new truth. I am bad with money. I cannot save. Credit is too confusing. I cannot earn more. I am alone. Small proof matters. Closing. Financial myths keep people stuck because they shape what people believe is possible. If you're bad with money, you hide. If you believe budgeting is punishment, you avoid planning. If you believe credit is free money, you borrowing without seeing the cost. If you believe investing is only for rich people, you may never learn. If you believe talking about money is embarrassing, you may suffer silently. If you believe struggle means laziness, you may shame yourself instead of getting the tools. And if you do not understand inflation, you may wonder why life feels more expensive without realizing your buying power is being squeezed. But today we are breaking myths. You're not bad with money. You're learning money. You're not behind because you're hopeless. You're behind if you only refuse to learn. You're not too late. You're not too small to start. You do not need to fix your whole life today. You need one honest step. Track one day. Save $1. Ask one question. Use one resource. Research one training program. Set one boundary. Challenge one myth. And remember, the first step may look small from the outside, but inside it is identity changing. You are becoming someone who does not just repeat what they're told. You're becoming someone who asks better questions. You're becoming someone who can build from the bottom with awareness, hope, and truth. And that is it for this video. Y'all have a great day. See you in the next one.